Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We have a fantastic speakers lineup today. We have our guests actually flying over from LA and Melbourne today, and we're focusing on one thing that everyone has been asking and talking about: how to build AI products, how to build fantastic products like what Meta has done and what Canva has done. So today we have both Ben and Jonathan here as well. So let's start with Ben. Can you give a brief introduction of yourself to the audience, what you do in Canva, and what drives AI product design as well?
Yeah, thank you. So great to see everyone. Really great to be here as well. It's been really awesome seeing how much energy there is around building great AI stuff, especially here in Hong Kong. So a bit about me. I've worked in product design, product development for about 15 years now, worked in tech for about 10. Currently at Canva, as Henson mentioned. But before that, I spent a lot of time working at Google as well. So I worked on the Gemini model as it was transitioning from being Bard, which is a really exciting time to be there because that was when Google was trying to figure out, like, what are we going to do in the AI space? How do we speak to consumers? So it was a really great experience being there. Before that, spent some time developing products at Netflix and Meta, where I also worked with my older friend Jonathan Brent as well. But really excited just to talk a little bit more about how I see AI driving these really cool consumer experiences and sharing a bit more about how Canva and Google and other companies are thinking about it.
And Jonathan?
Hey, I'm Jonathan. It's been absolutely lovely being here in Hong Kong. I can say a bit about myself, so I'm not a total stranger. I've spent about the last 10 years also working in the design space for digital products. I've been at Meta for the last 8.5 years. Before that, at the Australian Postal Service, which is maybe a surprise employer of kind of like innovation in user experience design, but it's a very cool place to work as well. I'm here bringing kind of a lens of kind of design systems. And I'll talk a bit more about what that means, but it's a really interesting vantage point to kind of see all the kind of amazing nascent work coming in from the functionality that can power AI products and trying to govern them and coordinate them into something coherent for the user. So we're going to talk a bit about that, and I'll talk a bit more about what design systems even are. I live, my house is in LA, but I live in the moment. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much, both Ben and Jonathan. When I know that I'm moderating this panel, I'm super excited because I myself is also very enthusiastic into building AI products. I think a lot of people here, companies, investors, are very interested in how AI products will be different, right? Right now, I think everyone's aware that we have been using AI every single day. Like, whatever problems you have, whether you're breaking up with your girlfriends or you just have career problems, you want to seek advice, you are basically asking questions, sending up prompts to AI to actually help you solve this. So in Sleekflow, we actually built a lot of agentic AI experience to solve the problems or messaging automations to help with sales and servers as well. So I'm keen to know more about, like, when you're building products, right? The first question is user experience, right? Can you kind of share about, like, how does defining user experience in product design change from the past compared to now when we have AI? Like, how has everything been changed in both Meta and Canva as well?
Yeah, great question. I think one thing that's been interesting is that there's like so much excitement around AI that people are starting to try and innovate and build things really, really fast. I mean, we see that here. There's like hundreds, thousands of startups that have just popped up building AI experiences just in Hong Kong and places like this. But I think when I'm working with my team, when I'm talking to my team about how do we need to be thinking about building products using AI, I try to bring things back to just what makes a good product. AI is this wonderful technology that has unlocked speed, it's unlocked new things that we can do, but at the end of the day, what my grandma is going to use or what a small business owner in Nairobi or Hong Kong or Taipei is going to use is going to be a good product. Whether or not the underlying technology is AI or something else is inconsequential to the excellence of the product. So I always like to get back to what is the user need that we really see. But what I think AI does that excites me personally is that it unlocks all these new user needs that we can actually serve. So it's just like such a rich, innovative space, but it should still be driven just by those core ideas of like what is useful.
Right. Yeah. I think that's always such a key thing. Maybe a truism, but thinking about the user first is such a tenet of design.
Yeah.
I think as I think about the ways of progress, I think we're getting more sophisticated in kind of these large organizations. One thing, and it's a slogan, a principle, a maxim. The idea of like don't ship the org chart, and I'll say what I mean by that. If you take Meta as an example, it's a very large organization, tens of thousands of employees. So many different teams working sometimes in silos to create really cool AI capabilities. So one thing I've seen we really hit the mark on lately is having a robust kind of design system team that sees everything coming through and can be the funnel to kind of channel that into a coherent experience for the user, even though it's made by many hands. Like Facebook is no longer made by Mark Zuckerberg in his dorm room. It's made by tens of thousands of bright minds, but it needs some coordination as well. So for example, there might be a number of teams working on a number of features. And from our position, we can see, are they all going to land at the same time for the user and start to pile up? We get to play the role of sort of air traffic control and coordinate all these features being developed disparately and turn them into one coherent experience when the user opens up the app and has a session there. So I think that's something I think about a lot is the way that this kind of specific way that UX has been able to evolve, continue to mature, and speak to this idea of like user centricity that we kind of kicked off on.
I think both are still focusing a lot in terms of building the fundamental values for the users, writing out user stories that what user envision and feel and the values that it brings to users as well. I think AI has actually changed how designers and product managers fundamentally work. Let me share a couple of examples on our sites. Let's say 5 years ago, when you tried to build, let's say, enterprise software and you want to build analytics features, you build tons of dashboard that people can track the performance, the metrics, and can monitor how well the enterprise software has helped them, right? Right now, if you are building such kind of insights and analytics, you might not even have to craft a UI for building dashboards because people are used to asking AI questions. Who is my top sales? How much revenue have I actually gained after using the software for 3 months? And then AI will actually answer questions and then give you a full report based on these insights. So this is more like how user experience has changed because now we have AI. So I want to ask both John and Ben here as well, like in Canva and Meta, seeing all these new AI technology, what has actually changed in terms of building products in both organizations?
Yeah, you touched on something really interesting, which is actually how is AI changing how we build regular products, right? I think to use your example of a dashboard, that's a really good one, is that, originally, a few years ago, not even that long ago now, to get a dashboard going, you'd need to work with a data scientist and an engineer just to craft it. Now I can sit down, use a tool like Replete, and I can build it myself. So it is like just expediting and speeding up the ways that we build products ourselves, which is really interesting. In terms of how AI is powering some of these new products, I think that is still a big question that a company like Canva is still trying to figure out. It's a design tool. So we're still trying to understand like what are the things within the context of just designing something that AI can help with? What are some of the things that it can do around design that we weren't able to do before? So it's a really just interesting like open space, which is cool.
Totally, yeah, and I think I have a lot of slogans today. I'm sorry, so bear with me. But another one is beware the solution looking for a problem, and focus on the problem looking for a solution. And I think we're starting as an industry and at Meta, really starting to form a playbook for what it does and does not work. So maybe some examples are, we kind of know this empirically from quantitative data and qualitative UX research insights. But it's also kind of just a piece of common wisdom that flows around the internet too. Like you'll hear people say, I don't really want AI to write poetry for me so I can have more time to wash the dishes. And to kind of unpack that, you're really starting to see the applications that sing and find product market fit, and more likely maybe about maybe some of your classic things like generating an image for someone who's not a photographer or an illustrator, but also collating information, summarizing, synthesizing, providing an opportunity to learn more. So I think we're sort of finding these ways that threading that needle, particularly critical at a company that is so rooted in people being able to express their identity. How do you find the sweet spot of facilitating that, but not doing it for them all the time and giving them the space to be uniquely human? The kind of the thing that we're not getting from AI just yet is that unique human idiosyncrasy, messiness, the things that make us human, the things we love to kind of talk about when we curate our own identity online.
Well, I love that we are focusing a lot still on a human experience and putting human-centric and part of your design as well. Just want to kind of ask a question for everyone here. Like, what are some AI trends that both Meta and Canva have been looking at in the past couple of years, or yourself? Can you share a couple of features, AI things that we should look at?
Yeah, I think I kind of touched on some of the broader ones. I think, in terms of the product development cycle, there are more and more playbooks and there's more wisdom about where to start exploring and deploying these products. So I think it's just that matter of like building up that muscle from just years of, a long time of experimentation. That's kind of like the macro view, but I can also like bring it home a little closer to home as well. One thing that I've particularly kind of been thinking about as well is like when we first started kicking off lots of AI functionality, I was working on a project to be like, how might we sort of like create a system of how we present these to users, and how do we come up with like names? There's like maybe there's 20 of these things coming down the pike, made by different teams. And one of the things that a principle I was working with, and I think still holds true, is that not everything needs to be have AI as a term in its name. You don't always need AI image editing, AI summarization. And increasingly, I think, much like we've seen with machine learning, we don't always need to foreground and brand in the front end, the interface, the user experience, that this thing is a capital AI product. Instead, historically, things like machine learning have been things that users often greatly appreciate when they're navigating a feed and the way it ranks and retrieves material, looking at a search results page. These things have happened silently for a long time. So I think you're going to find the sweet spot of like, when is it going to be critical, both as an experience and just out of a responsibility to declare that this is an AI experience and make that really clear, and what are the times when it kind of recedes into the background and just provides that functionality. And what people really care about is that it just works. 3 billion users on Facebook, like, did it work or not? That's the main thing. So I think it'd be about threading that needle as well. It's kind of like a micro-level trend that I think will continue to bear out.
Yeah, it's very true. I love a lot of that. I think going back to this idea of trends, I think that I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to make a prediction about the future. I think the big winner in the AI space is going to solve two things. They're going to make AI work on device, and I think a lot of companies are looking at how do they do that. I think Apple is maybe a front runner there. I think Google and Samsung are doing some really interesting stuff too. And they're going to make AI work in the moment for a lot of different users. So I think that is where we're going to start to see some big paradigm shifts. There are a lot of other things like AI working, like building software and doing coding, things like that. A lot of other things are going to have a lot of success. But the big consumer breakthrough, which is where we see those magnifies, those like extremely scaled trillion-dollar companies come from, they're going to make it work very cheaply, very quickly, without needing an internet connection. That's going to access a lot of people in the world who can't use AI. And they're going to make sure it works in context all the time. And whoever cracks that is going to be, it's going to be the next Google, it's going to be the next Apple.
Oh, fantastic perspective. So I guess hardware, devices, AI are going to be the trend moving forward. And I also agree with Jonathan. AI has been very overwhelming. So my next question is, there's so many things AI could do, but sometimes it could go very wrong. So how do you choose the right AI when you're building the products? Like what AI features you want to incorporate to your products? How do you pick? Do you have something that you can share how you kind of figure that out when you're in Meta?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one thing I promised to do is maybe just unpack a bit more about what is a design system and what does it mean. So we've got some audio-visual slides. If you can bring up the slides now, that'd be perfect. And let's do a quick run through that will hopefully put some shape to what we mean when we talk about design systems, what they do, what they're for. Perfect. Okay, so if you've not engaged with or been familiar with this term, I'm going to talk a bit about design systems and how they become integral to, at scale, bringing the back-end functionality into a product in a way that's going to be logical, coherent, and extensible. Okay, lots of buzzwords, so I'll break it down a bit more. What is a design system? We've got a queue happening here. But in short, they are a series of building blocks that a company can give to folks working on product, design, engineering, everyone working on product. And those building blocks are things like foundations. These are the smallest, most atomic small things. So it could be the typography, the typeface you use, the brand color, the spacing values. It's quite technical. But they all come together to create components. We see an example of a button here. Just about any app interface has a button. That's a blockbuster component. And you start to put components together if you're picking up the theme, and they could come together to make compositions called patterns. So really the idea here is to create these building blocks. But why do we do this? There are a few reasons. One is it really helps us create high-quality experiences for the user, because these are highly crafted, heavily vetted pieces of componentry and units you can use. On top of that, they aid product velocity and efficiency to pre-solve these problems, and makes it way easier to sort of update a large app at scale when everything is tied to one system and you can change everything en masse. So that's kind of just a quick primer on design systems. I'm going to keep it moving and we'll see what that means in practice. So just to talk us through this, I work at Meta, but I think it was just an interesting exercise to create this little kind of small prototype of an app just to illustrate some of these concepts and kind of make it hopefully applicable to a lot of people. This is, to be very clear, a completely fictional app that I made up. It's a social network for dogs called Dogscape. But we're going to use it just to illustrate a few concepts. Okay, so this is where we start to get this idea of like, how might we start in an existing product, particularly one at scale, to integrate AI functionality. And it's going to be an interesting discussion about there is kind of this philosophy that, in design, form should follow function. But in practice, sometimes you have decisions to make where you make a form choice that could influence function. And you'll see what I mean. On the left, there's an example of like, maybe in this case, you want to bring AI functionality into your product, and you want to make it an entity. That is a thing on your platform that users can interact with, much like a regular human. And on the right, there's an idea of like using this kind of functionality to create more of an AI-powered utility. So this is some real discussions that I've been involved in. It's like, okay, how do you start to represent this? If you take the approach on the right, you're choosing things like an avatar. You're providing identity, a profile photo for your AI agent. And you're using regular, organic, we call it, formats, the kinds of things that a regular human user on the platform can share. So that's one approach. And it optimizes to really foregrounding this AI agent. On the right, the idea of AI as utility. This is a more classical promotional approach, and using different components to sell this. And you're using components that a regular user wouldn't use. So let's talk about what that means in practice. So once you've done this approach, maybe you want to make AI an entity. There's a lot more that comes with it. Now it needs to have a profile like any other user. Here's a navigation. You're going from this feed product, and now we're going to this profile view. And the reason I bring this up is these formal component-level distinctions come with downstream effects that affect the scope, cost, and complexity of a project. Now you have another interface to produce. What does that cost to build or maintain? Can you connect, follow this AI agent? Can other users post on the profile of this AI agent? Just in the one decision you made about how to represent your AI in the product has a number of downstream effects. So I just wanted to quickly go through that, just to paint a picture of what I mean when I say the phrase design system, and just put some visual shape to what it means to start taking this incredible functionality created in like the work people do to create these models that power AI features, and render it in the hand of a user in their phone or on a desktop device. So we're going to move away from the slides and bring us back to the previous visuals, but I just wanted to set the scene a little bit and paint a picture of what this could mean in practice.
Well, fantastic perspective. I think a lot of us were in designs and products, and we want to building experience into AI into the products, but sometimes we might over-engineering it, or sometimes we just try to add unnecessary features for the sake of AI, right? So maybe back to Ben, what's your perspective in terms of how to choose the right AI when you are thinking about Canva products, when you're thinking about what to put in?
Yeah, great question, and it was really wonderful, like seeing how we scale these things as well. It, like really frames the discussion really beautifully. Yeah, I think when it comes to like choosing the right AI, I think there's a bunch of, it's like a stack of questions that I really have to think about. It's like, what do I need the model to do? So which model is right? I won't go into that too much because that's a bit of a hairy question. But in terms of like how does AI power features, I think that is where it's more interesting, right? And what I like to do is like always be asking the question is like, what can AI allow us to do that it didn't allow us to do before? Because I think what I see out there in the industry happening a lot is people deploying AI features that end up competing with features that that company already had, right? And it's a risk for Canva too, right? It's a really great design tool. What if we create an AI that does also design? Are we now like sort of cannibalizing our own product? It's a complicated question. So the question is like, what can it do that's new? And I think that's why I was really drawn to work at Canva, just to bring it back to sort of a personal sort of story here, is I really like the way that they were using AI to create these like really tactical, magical moments. You could be designing and a little thing will pop up and it'll offer to like help you rewrite something. It wasn't saying, oh, you have to go and like have a conversation with this other entity or like do a blah, blah, blah. Shows up in the moment, helps you do this thing right there in the design. And I was like, these guys know what they're doing. They have a really good vision for how AI fits into the ecosystem. And I was really drawn to that. Coming from Google, which was like a big model, it was a really interesting step change.
So I think all of us has heard a lot about theories about how they have the philosophies planted in their designs. But now we want to hear some painful stories, some struggles that you guys have when AI came into place about Canva, about Meta, right? For example, Canva has been a fantastic tool in the past, and for now as well, for sure, for building designs for different things. But AI came into place. Canva built a lot of AI features, in fact. But before all these fantastic features have been shipped, what has been some struggles within the team that you have experienced?
You know, I think the big thing that I've seen at Canva, and a lot of the role that I play is sort of just steadying the ship a little bit, there's been a lot of anxiety around, okay, AI has made it really easy to create a simple design tool very quickly. And you see it happening all the time. Like Playground pops up, it's doing a lot of what Canva can do. So then Canva sees that and it's like, oh, we really got to be on our toes with this. And so a lot of what I personally struggle with is maintaining a perspective, right? Which is that people aren't just going to see, oh, there's a better tool over here, I'm going to ditch all my designs on Canva and leave it. Just reminding myself that the best product is not going to be the first product, it's going to be the best product. Like, no one remembers who was first, they remember who was best. And that's a truth that you see across the tech industry. Google wasn't the first search engine, but it was the best search engine. Apple didn't make the first smartphone, but they made the best smartphone. And Apple's a great example for a lot of this stuff, audio devices, like personal computing, all these things. But just taking your time to get it right, to meticulously design into a user need, to find that product market fit that I know we're going to talk about in a moment, that is what's going to like allow us to win. So I spend a lot of time grounding myself, grounding my teams. To your point, like getting out of the headspace of theory and technology to just like, let's just do what we do best.
Definitely, Canva has benefited a lot from this AI trend. Actually built in a lot of things within the platform itself as well. But on to Meta, like what are some struggles, painful stories?
Yeah, totally. And I think I've alluded to some already, but we'll kind of tell a bit of a story. So some of the things I've talked about are the sheer scale of the company. Just tens of thousands of people working on product, which is fantastic, but it brings in some of these other skills in addition to being in Figma, the design software, and making screens. You also need to be, as I mentioned, an air traffic controller. You need to be a diplomat. You need to do a lot of coordinating. So you're taking all of these disparate, potentially projects, people like doing really great work, creating individual things, and you need to bring that together. So that's kind of the a lot of where these skills come in. So I'm going to be a little bit selfish in this, and as we think about that as our kind of the thing to think about, the process thing to work through. I'm going to be a little selfish and say that I think that there's a role to be played for design systems here. Maybe predictable for me at this point, but I do believe it. And we see it manifest in a few ways. I'll bring up two more slogans, and I promise these are the last two. One is, within a design system, you often want to have the smallest number of components with the simplest number of configurations with the simplest set of rules for how to use them. That's how you kind of create simple experiences for designers and product people to work with, and also makes it simple for the user. But also, you have to be a diplomat, and you need to provide customer service for your customers who are designers at Meta. So I think it's been a matter of like finding a way to make this work. So it's been really about being nimble. So you'll hit like some interesting forks in the road where the needs and constraints of the new technology start to inform how your design system works. For example, I worked through kind of a debugged thing where we're using this component to provide users with a way of sending text to another user, as suggested by a large language model. But the constraint was the component was X pixels wide, but it was impossible for the large language model to generate text short enough to fit inside that. So it became kind of an intractable problem to fix unless we did something to accommodate this new class of product. So we started to modify it and created like a modified version of this to allow for that. So that's one thing. It's like responding and bringing that into the design system and acknowledging change is sometimes needed when we introduce a new type of product, a new class of product like artificial intelligence features. It gets also exciting too when you get to like create brand new components that we really believe fit the specific need and the shape of what's required. And just I mentioned diplomacy. Like it can be really rewarding. Someone came to us and I was talking with them and they're saying, I've been trying for ages. I cannot find the right interface, the right components to do this. I need users to send this mid-length text comment as suggested, recommended by the large language model. It's like, say less. We literally made a new component for this last week. It's in the library now. Here's a link. And they were really happy. So it's, as I was teeing up, it's that thing where you get to be both a salesperson, a diplomat, and a technical person working under the hood. But I think it really is a time. And when you put all of that together, as I teed up from the very beginning of my kind of spiel about design systems, it allows us to solve a problem once rather than reinventing the wheel over the course of months every day. And that becomes a really compelling thing for product development, that level of reproducibility and consistency.
I really love how Jonathan is always going back to a design thinking framework that actually helps you approach a problem no matter whether we have AI or not. We have the same mindset of approaching things. Last part, food for thoughts. I think summarizing what Ben and Jonathan have been saying, I think right now we have to rethink about how AI could actually help us deliver more value to our users. The products that you built in the past, there might be better ways to build it with AI. And in Sleekflow, we actually kind of demolished certain things that we built in the past because there are newer ways to do it with the AI, with the prompt, analytics as an example as well. So I think going back to the fundamental principles, rethinking the whole thing, and adding AI into it to make sure that we find the best ways is the way to go in the future. So thank you so much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ben, for sharing your philosophies. And hope you guys enjoy today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.